Over the last few weeks, I have, like most people, immersed myself in PoE 2 content. There is a lot of information, and it seems like there is a lot of new players coming to PoE 2 that may not have played PoE 1. With that in mind, I want to break it down as easy as possible for those people that have not played other ARPG games such as PoE 1 or Diablo. Path of Exile 2 is shaping up to be a significant evolution in the ARP genre, blending elements of what made Path of Exile 1 a beloved classic while introducing modern mechanics, a refined gameplay loop, and a fresh approach to storytelling. This video will be geared more towards the new players so that they can get a sense of what they are getting into. If you have played and defeated Diablo 4's main campaign and found that satisfying, then I suggest you wait for Path of Exile 2 to release on December 6th. But in order to get early access, you would have to buy one of these supporter packs for the early access. The good thing about it is if you do buy one of these supporter packs, you will get the equivalent amount of currency to buy some microtransactions within the game. They do offer different levels of microtransactions for these supporter packs with different skins, different equipment skins, and such. And then once you get to the $160 one, you get an actual T-shirt if you want it, or you can get the equivalent of in-game currency as well as in the 240 and in the 480 packs. Now, if you're like me and don't know if you want to buy this or not, I suggest just waiting. If you want to be a beta tester and experiment and just know whether or not you're going to like this, then I suggest starting with this. The biggest thing to note before making the purchase, though, is what you actually get with early access. So in the early access, you will only be able to play the first 25 hours worth of campaign, as they say here, but then you will also get hundreds of hours of late game. But you may ask, but there's an Act 4, 5, and 6 that is in the middle. What about that? Unfortunately, they decided not to go with that in the first part, and what they will actually be doing is providing Act 1, 2, and 3 the first 25 hours, and then Act 1, 2, and 3 again to reach level 65, but at a harder difficulty. So just think of if you were playing a game like Hades, or if you're playing New Game Plus on Elden Ring or such games with New Game Plus, and that's essentially what you're going to be doing. So the biggest thing when it comes to ARPGs, people look at Diablo 4 currently as more of a casual gamers ARPG. People that work full-time jobs, have families, and can only play a couple hours a week, such as myself. On the other hand, PoE 1 was seen more of a hardcore player's game, and a lot has to do with this, their passive skill tree. This is completely different than what a Diablo game provides. And if you look at this, it would be pretty intimidating at first glance. I can tell you I was completely intimidated when I first started playing PoE 1 and didn't know what to do. But there's an easy way to look at this. If you look right here, there are 6 circles all around, right here, these bigger ones. And you can see that there's two main lines that kind of separate them into 6 separate sections. So those are 6 classes that PoE 1 currently offers. With that being said, if you take a look at this, and there are 123 passive skills that you can gain in a single game play. So let's say you build out your passive skill tree, and then you get to these lines here where this class is separated, the two border edges, and you see a few skills over here that you're like, oh, if I can spend 4 or 5 skill points, I can get that passive that I really like. Or same thing going over here. I like this passive here. You can do that. It allows you to branch out into other quote unquote class archetypes to expand your own skill tree and perfect your class, or just create a class that's unique to you that you like to play. For instance, let's just say this was a warrior and this was a necromancer, just as an example. and you build a tanky warrior on this side, but you added skeletal necromancers. Now, you're not gonna have the benefits of specializing in one or the other, but you could create a unique build where you enjoy the gameplay. So, looking at PoE 2, obviously this is not the PoE 2 passive skill tree, but it's going to be somewhat similar. The biggest thing to note is not to get intimidated and just select what you want to play as. Again, as an example, let's say this is a warrior, and you say, oh, this branch here, it looks like it gives me more health, and this branch up here seems like it gives me more armor. And if I go through here, attack speed, and let's just say this is attack damage. So you decide what kind of playstyle do you want to go? Do you want to be higher health to take more damage, more armor to be tankier, maybe some attack speed and some attack damage? You decide which way to go. And then you start looking at all out here later on. Oh, I went the tanky route, but I see that up here there's, a skill that I want or a passive skill that I want that allows me to cause them bleeding, and that's what I want to do. I want to be tanky and I want to cause bleeding so that I can kill the monster slowly. So you build your own character, or you just say, you know, the freak with that. I want to do the most damage possible, and I don't care about my defense whatsoever. So you just take that route and go through all the attack damages. As they say, the world is your oyster. Here as well with the passive exile and passive exile 2 passive skill trees. So if you go back to Passive Exile 2 and look at the current classes that are going to be available on release day for the early access, there's going to be a total of 6 classes. Each class will have 2 ascendancies on release. We have the Warrior that offers the Titan and the Warbringer. We have the Sorceress that provides Stormweaver and the Chronomancer. We have the Ranger that provides Deadeye, which is part of PoE, and the Pathfinder. The new class, the Monk, that is the Invoker and the Acolyte of Chiluya. We have the Mercenary, which is the class that I'm going to start with, the Witch Hunter, and the Gemlin Legionnaire. Then we have the Witch, the Blood Mage, and the Infernalist. So you can see right away that there are going to be different playstyles for each one of these classes that you can choose from. And the passive skill tree will allow you to dip your, let's say, fingers into a couple of skill trees that are near yours. One of the things that the developers of Grinding Gears for PoE 2 have confirmed is that each class at the end will have a total of 3 ascendancy classes. So if you do the math of 12 classes originally with 3 ascendancies each, there will be a total of 36 total classes or specializations that you can play. But for the early access, there's only 6 classes and 2 ascendancies each, which is still a lot for just an early access game. I know they're planning to release other classes throughout the time before the full release, like the Druid is one of them, and I'm also looking forward to play that. But for now, I'm going to be playing the Mercenary and planning to do the Witch Hunter. But we will see as the game goes on. One of the things to note here when you're looking at the
All
ascendancies.
damage incoming. But if you take Grasp of the Void, it's a reward, allowing resistances whatever it takes to soul the Jinn.
So, how do you ascend? And what does the ascendancy really do? So, ascendancies starting Act 2 will be trials that you do. It's different from the current PoE, but seems to be better, which we will see. But essentially, once you ascend and you choose your ascendancy, you will have these passive skills that you can select, which will basically specialize your character even further. So this is the skill tree for the ascendancy versus something like this that is the skill tree for the main character. So again, let's say you chose the witch, right? Let's say this is the witch, and you chose your passive skills more mana, faster casting, more damage, etc., etc. Then you go to the sorry about that. You go to the actual ascendancy. Oh, I want to be the blood mage, right? Here's my passive skills, and I'm going to go this way because it goes with the build. Oh, I want to do critical damage per bonus life. And that's how you do an ascendancy class. You pass the trials and you move forward with that. As you continue on and build your character, you'll go into the late game. Again, the end game is probably like 40 hours to 60 hours after you do acts 1, 2, 3, and then repeat acts 1, 2, 3 at a higher difficulty. The end game is this huge map that basically allows you to go in and they call it mapping, where you go in into these maps, you kill these monsters, you get the bonuses, and you come back out. The difference is that instead of having random just maps that you go to, now you have paths that you want to go to. What these paths will allow you to do if and only if you're able to clear on the first try. So let's say you wanted to get to this tower here, and you see that you can go from this green, this blue, this green, and this blue. So you have four chances to get to this tower. If you block this path right here because you failed it, then it will not let you. If you lose this one and this one, then it will also block this path. And if all four are closed, you will not have access to this. So it's going to be a high reward but high risk type of late game. And that is, exciting if you think about it. Other information that you should know without paying any money now is that if over the 10 years of Path of Exile 1, you spend, I believe they said $480 worth. That is the only way you would get a free key, quote unquote free, because you spent $480 back then. But for all of us that haven't spent that money on Path of Exile 1, this would be your easiest and best bet to get in on December 6th. Now, unfortunately, I will be on vacation when this releases, but I still went ahead and bought it so that when I come back from my vacation, I can play this day one of me being back. So from there on, this is what the roadmap looks like for us that will be playing on around release time. You get Acts 1, 2, 3 in normal mode, and then you get Acts 1, 2, 3 in what they're calling cruel mode, which is just basically like New Game Plus, as I mentioned it. You get higher difficulty with your class so that you can get around that 65 level 65 for the end game. So if you think about it, if this is 25 hours, and let's say the higher difficulty takes you a little longer, you can say anywhere between 20 to 30 hours because you already know what's going to happen. So roughly just the main campaign will take you roughly 40 to 60 hours, as I said. And then from level 65 to 100, you get the end game, which has a lot. I didn't go into a lot of detail about what it has, but there is a lot. Which again, you have to get through the acts 1, 2, 3 twice before you get here. And I will make more videos on what the end game trials and what it actually provides you. As you can see, it is a lot. And I look forward to making more videos and seeing how you guys like them. Thank you.